Now, there is an image circulating in Europe. This image has been widely discussed for the past 2 days. The events take place on a train. The Prime Minister of the UK, the Prime Minister of France, and the Prime Minister of Germany are traveling together in the same carriage on a train from Poland to Ukraine. They are heading towards Kiev, and suddenly journalists enter the carriage and the camera starts rolling. Let's bring up that image. And at that moment, something interesting happens. On the table, there is something like a white powdery substance sitting there. Look, the British Prime Minister is passing in front of Macron. Macron is sitting, and on the right side is the German Chancellor. He is sitting as well. They're actually just civilians. When he sits down, he picks something up from the table. Look, the one in blue you'll see in a moment. He pulls it like this. He picks up something like a stick or a straw from there. Let's bring up that footage. Look, he's sitting down in front of Macron. As you can see, is it a napkin or a white bag? There's something there, but it's not clear what it is. It's obvious that the three of them were hanging out there before. Look, he puts the glass aside. He picks up that straw-like thing and hides it discreetly. At the same time, you can see Macron. He also grabs something like that in a panic and holds it in his hand. Now, the claim is that these are drugs. I won't say the name of that substance, so it doesn't become an advertisement. And there's this sense that they somehow got caught. Macron is also looking in a certain way. He has this look like he's a bit high. Now, on the one hand, people are discussing whether this is actually a drug. For the past 2 days, this has been the most talked about issue in Europe. So one group says, no, these aren't drugs. It's a Russian intelligence operation. And another group says, come on, man, these guys are using drugs. They're hiding drugs. Then is when you look at it, what do you see? Well, when I look at it, it seems pretty obvious that there's a substance there. What do you think? You told me, well, Liberation, the French news outlet, they say it's a napkin, but it doesn't really look like a napkin there on the table. What would a napkin be doing there?
Well, I generally filtered the accounts that shared this. In the end, it all leads back to Russia. I wouldn't exactly say Russian intelligence, but certain hacker groups affiliated with Russia spread these kinds of disinformative news stories. For example, they previously circulated some photos of Macron claiming he was gay. They said things like Macron's spouse was actually a man and so on and so forth. These kinds of stories have come out. Now here they are found on the train, all right? Then they call in the press, and beforehand, a certain atmosphere has been created as if there had been a drug party there, drinks had been consumed. They tried to create the impression that they were appearing before the press all high and intoxicated. Well, I knew Macron back when he was the finance minister. Well, not knew personally, but I used to follow him.
How do you know him, really?
I mean, he's a completely clean-cut gentleman. A political leader who has nothing to do with these things, doesn't smoke, and keeps his distance from alcohol. That's why I don't think it's possible at all.
Look, as a journalist with 35 years of experience, let me give you some advice. As a journalist, no matter what, never vouch for any politician. I'm not just talking about politicians don't vouch for any person. Don't vouch for a politician you don't know for any reason. But you can vouch for justice. You can vouch for the law. But never say, this person would never do that, because it might happen. I mean, you never know. Even your closest friend could do something you can't know. That's why I'm giving you this advice as a friend and a companion. Don't vouch for any politician. Not in Turkey, not anywhere in the world. Just say, maybe it won't happen, but maybe it could. But also bring up those images with Arda when you share your opinion. What do Arda and Kenan think? Because here's the thing. If Russian intelligence is behind this, then it's a major operation. Because they're basically saying it's like 3 drug addicts are directing the war in Europe. Because something like this was said about Zelensky too, right? He had some of those attitudes, back then. Arda, what do you think? Even if he doesn't hold his left arm, you seem to be fixated on that too. Are you saying he was caught while guilty?
Well, it kind of looks that way, Mr. Cüneyt. He sees the camera. Macron, for example, locks his eyes forward like that, right? At that moment, the moment he sees it, he hides what's in his hand without averting his gaze from the camera. And then, as you can see right here,
he takes it there and puts it in his pocket. Now, if it were just a paper napkin, why would he take it and put it in his pocket? He would just put it on the ashtray there or throw it in the trash on the floor.
That's what I think too.
Here's the thing. The train is about to leave there. And Macron says, let's take a family photo before we go. And that's when he sees the napkin. Now, a napkin isn't exactly a pleasant sight. He puts it in his pocket so that nothing is visible on the table. That's how things unfold. So let's not have the impression that the press suddenly raided and someone was smuggling drugs or something.
Kenan, what do you think?
Well, actually, I want to look at the issue from a broader perspective. When you look at the profiles of world leaders, especially in the last 10 years, you see that they are generally younger, more dynamic, people who like to have fun, dance, and don't present themselves in the typical politician role. So if this news turns out to be true, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
So you're saying it's possible too. Look, the former Prime Minister of the UK just recently, a video came out of him kissing a man. That's probably not an operation either, Denis. You saw that video too.
No, of course, not everything is an operation. But specifically with Zelensky,
everyone has their own private life. Why should we care, brother? I mean, we could look at it from that perspective too. Even if it is happening or not, we could just say it's none of our business and move on.
The environment is very suitable for this kind of thing.
I don't think three leaders would ever do something like that together. It just doesn't seem likely to me. So this time we're all going together, brother. I don't think they'd say, let's go to the battlefield or anything like that. If they do it one by one, that's the only part that made me a bit suspicious. So whether it's likely to be true or not. Anyway, let's just say a bad example isn't an example. Let's continue. We're living through historic days. PKK has probably already announced it by now, or should be announcing it around this very point in time. Or alternatively, they will announce it in a few days. And PKK is now, more than ever, absolutely and fully prepared to lay down arms. Last Sunday, they were giving the final details. And so the PKK, which was founded in November 1978 and carried out its first action on August 15, 1984, by attacking Eru in Siirt and Shemdinli in Hakkari. Let's call it the PKK adventure. Perhaps we can call it Turkey's last Kurdish uprising. We are slowly approaching the end of this issue, for which we have given thousands of martyrs, about 9,000 in total. Between 1,984 and 2015, an estimated 7,230 security personnel lost their lives. Over 40,000 of our citizens of the Republic of Turkey lost their lives. 70,000 PKK members were killed, and it cost Turkey a financial burden of between $450 billion and $2 trillion, not to mention the immense emotional toll.